Hello! So last time we talked about physical media in film and TV, but this time I want to talk about physical media in gaming, and I've found out some pretty worrying stuff. So let's have a look. Okay, so as I mentioned, last time we talked about physical media in sort of DVDs and Blu-ray, things like that, why it's important to me, and we had a little bit of a look at my collection. So just to add on to that, there is a scorpion figure that you'll see behind me, and that statue was sent to me by Sayal Figures, who saw my Mortal Kombat video on YouTube and wanted to send me one of their statues. So thank you so much to them. It looks incredible and I absolutely love it. So go check them out on Instagram. They're really lovely. Okay, so physical media in gaming and video games. Now, this is something that's obviously come under fire over the past few years, and it's something that's gradually getting kind of worse. So with the introduction of things like digital-only consoles where they don't actually have a disc tray, we could sort of see where things were going, that it was obviously more cost-effective for these video game companies to make everything digital and not produce a physical copy. But if you have a digital-only console, it means that you can't borrow a game off a friend or just go to a second-hand shop, see a game that you've always wanted to play and buy it there and then quite cheap and then take it home and play it. So there's obviously drawbacks to these kind of things, but having your sort of digital game library all in one place on your console is obviously a plus in a lot of other ways. Now the thing is, obviously I love collecting, I love physical media, and I like some collector's editions as well. So that said, there's a few collector's editions that I've had for years that I absolutely adore. So two of them being the Injustice Gods Among Us that came with this incredible statue of Batman and Wonder Woman. He's kind of missing his Batarang. That was something that got lost in my house move. And this statue from Arkham Origins of the Batman and Joker. So I've got a couple of things like that, and these special editions not only look great, but it's just a really nice complementary thing to go with the game. It's something exciting to look forward to, and then you have your physical copy of the game as well. You also have things like steel books as well. Now there's a whole sort of community out there of people who collect steel book editions of DVDs and Blu-rays. I only have a couple, but they look really cool in your collection. And you also get things like artwork books, which obviously for video games they can be really stunning and really nice additions to add to the information of the game and how it was made and what certain things looked like in the beginning stages when they were just in sort of pre-production. But with that said, a lot of retailers and a lot of gaming companies are also saying that there is a huge reduction in people buying physical releases. So recently I went into a game store in Bristol where I live and found out that they no longer do trade-ins. They don't do pre-owned games anymore, which was obviously one of the biggest draws to going to that shop, is that not only could you pick up a little bargain sometimes, but also you knew that you could trade in your old games. And this was possibly the biggest sort of retailer of video games in the UK. Is probably the most well known. So not only are they stopping doing pre-owned games, but a lot of their stores are closing down, and they're moving these stores into a sort of counter, a sad little counter in the corner of Sports Direct. Now, Sports Direct is sort of like a discount sports store, is where you buy these huge mugs, and also is where you get obviously like discount clothing from. So having a sort of little game counter in there is a bit odd, but apparently I heard that one of the reasons why they didn't have the pre-owned going into these stores as well is because they had different till systems. They didn't want to obviously have to retrain staff on how to take in pre-owned games, so they've just sort of streamlined it. But it also meant that a lot of the stores closed down. So could this decision be mostly about a decline in people buying physical releases? Maybe, yes, but also it might be to do with the fact that shoppers might have got kind of savvy to the scam that was going on in terms of, when they would trade in something, you could buy a new game at, say, £50, back when games were £50, and then play it for a couple of weeks, decide that you've done everything you want to on it, trade it in. You would trade it in for, say, £20 because they wanted to make a profit, and then they would put it back on the shelf for pre-owned for £48. So they make a huge profit, we lose out. Everyone kind of got savvy to that, and I think it kind of stopped people from doing this. It stopped people from buying certain games or knowing that they could trade it in. Maybe they'd just wait until it goes into a sale so that they're not losing so much money. But with this apparent downsizing of a huge gaming retailer like Game in the UK, where are we going to get our physical media from? Where do we get games from anymore? A lot of supermarkets have stopped selling them, like Sainsbury's. So it's really getting quite difficult to find places to either pre-order a special edition unless it's online, or to get your physical games from. Now, the problem with this is that your physical games are obviously, once they're bought, they're always yours. And so long as your console still works and still plays it, you've got that game forever. But obviously there is a huge increase in people buying digital media and buying games digitally, having either a Game Pass, which, if you're not aware of what like a Game Pass is, or PlayStation Plus, it's basically like Netflix but for games. You can kind of pay a monthly subscription and you have a library of games that you can download whenever you want to. However, those games aren't always on there. Like Netflix, they can disappear and reappear every so often. So with the convenience of having all of your games on a digital store and you can buy them and download them, that is obviously another great thing about sort of having all of your games in one place. However, games aren't always going to be available on there. So for instance, we've seen over the past few years certain licensing issues and publishing issues where those companies either go bust or a license agreement expires, and therefore you cannot buy that game anymore. And it could be one of your favorite games. You might have it in your library, and for some reason it either gets removed, corrupted, deleted, things like that. Hopefully you can re-download it again, but if it's not available on storefronts anymore, you won't be able to just go and buy it, and your friends can't go and buy it. So if you want to play 2-player on this game, it might not be available digitally. You would have to go and find it physically. So a good example of this is the Deadpool game. So obviously we all know Deadpool became a massive hit because of the movies. He's been around in comics for years, but in 2013 there was a video game made of Deadpool. Now, it's had some sort of mixed reviews. It's quite fun, but it is a good example of how these games can disappear. So in 2014, Activision, the gaming company, lost their license. Well, technically the license expired with Marvel Comics. So this meant that all of the games that Activision had played a part in making for Marvel disappeared from digital storefronts. You could no longer buy them anymore. The game was actually re-released on Xbox One and PS4, so it got a little bit of an upgrade, and it was re-released, so they managed to sort of make a little deal, and that was just in time for the movie coming out in 2016. Now, the thing is, the following year in 2017, all of those Activision games were again taken off of storefronts and delisted digitally. So now the copies of Deadpool that are out there are the only ones you can get, which is why it's so expensive to buy online and in secondhand stores. So essentially a game that is over 10 years old is now 40 or 50 pounds to buy because they're the only copies you can get of it. Similarly, I really enjoyed the Marvel's Avengers game. I know that had a really bad rap, but me and my friends had a great time playing it. And when that live service got shut down, last year, the game was taken off of all digital storefronts. So it meant that if you had a digital console, you could no longer buy it. So those physical copies out there are the only ones that you can buy if you want to play something like that. There are a lot of games that this is happening to, and it means that a lot of games that we either grew up loving or that we've sort of grown to love and wanted to return to, we can no longer buy anymore, which is something that I think is a real shame. There are so many gaming companies out there that are either getting merged into others or going broke, and therefore they can't actually fund having their games on a digital store anymore. So what I will say is, if you have the chance to buy a physical copy of a game, please do so. It means that it's forever yours, you own it, it's something that you can either lend to a friend, it's something that you can take around someone's house, it is there to do with as you please. And digital copies might not always be there anymore. Obviously, we've had certain gaming companies stop doing consoles altogether, like Sega. Xbox were also thinking about it a little while ago and thinking of just making games instead of making game consoles, which might mean that a load of your Xbox games will no longer be available, no longer work, and you won't be able to use any backwards compatibility because, as we've seen, a lot of the consoles now no longer do backwards compatibility. It was there for a little while and everyone loved it, but for some reason they just keep moving away from it. So if you can, buy them whenever you can. Buy a game if you see it on offer, buy a game if you can pre-order it, and just keep that physical copy. It's really important that we have these things to own for ourselves forever, and we don't have anyone else messing with our purchases. So I want to hear from you. Are there any games that are no longer available anymore that you absolutely love and wish you could still play? Are there any games that got delisted while you were still playing them and you never got to finish them? And also, what is in your collection? What's your most treasured collector's item in terms of the world of gaming, or in terms of DVDs and Blu-rays? I always wanted the Gears of War Lancer, the big gun that you could get. I think it was with Gears of War 2. I always wanted that and never got to get that in my collection, but that was one thing that I wish I'd gotten at the time. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.